I'm going to share with you the books that I read during the month of May. I didn't read too many books during May, although the first book that I read and finished was over 600 pages, so I'm sort of counting that as two if the numbers mattered, which they don't. So let's just jump in and talk about the books. So as I mentioned, the first book that I read was a chunker, and that was The Storm Sister by Lucinda Riley. This is the second book in, I think, what will be a 7-book series. It's called The Seven Sisters. The Seven Sisters is the name of the first book, and the general premise of these stories are that we have 6 adopted sisters, and at the beginning of each book they discover that their adoptive father has passed away. So they all come back to the family home, and on arrival they find out that their father has left them each clues as to their heritage, and so each book focuses on a different sister, I think going in age order, and it's all kind of connected to this Seven Sisters star constellation. So they're all named after the different elements of this, the different stars of this star constellation, and so each book kind of follows a different sister's story as she uncovers her history and her heritage. It's general fiction slash historical fiction because the setup of each book is that we have the present day story about the sister as she goes on her journey of discovery, but we also have the historical element, which is the heritage, the story of the sisters' ancestors, as it were. So this particular book focuses on Ali. Ali is a sailor, and she's always felt a connection to her adoptive father through their shared love of sailing, but she's also a musician. And at the beginning of this book, Ali's kind of embarking on a new romance in her life, and then all of a sudden her whole world gets turned upside down and she decides that she's going to go off and discover who she is. So Lucinda Riley has written these books with a view to them all being able to be read as standalone novels, and that does mean that the first section of the book is basically the sisters discovering that their father has died and them all gathering together. So it did feel a little bit slow and repetitive to begin with, although you're getting the story from the sisters, a different sister's perspective. It's a lot of the same information, and to ensure that her timelines all kind of tie up. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. By the time we get to book 7, I imagine that's going to be a little bit boring, but as I said, it does make the story feel a tiny bit slow to begin with, but then once the plot kind of picks up and takes off, I thought that it was very, very good. So as I said, we have Ali. She is a sailor, she's embarking on a new romance, etc, etc. And so the historical fiction element of this book begins with the story of a young Norwegian girl called Anna Landvik, who has basically grown up in rural Norway on a farm, and through a series of events she is discovered as having this amazing voice, and she's taken into the city and goes on to become one of Norway's most successful singers, and she works with a number of well-known composers. And we follow Anna on her journey as she sort of goes on a journey of self-discovery to become this really successful singer, and then we follow subsequent generations thereafter, each with their own individual story. Overall, I think what Lucinda Riley is trying to achieve with the concept of these books is really interesting. I enjoy the overarching storyline of the girls kind of finding out who they are. There's also an added mystery element. In the first book, I think we discover something that you don't really get an answer to, and that's kind of touched on very loosely in this book, and I think is going to slowly be revealed as we go further on into the story. So I really appreciate that. For me, the weakness in this book particularly, I can't remember it being this way in the first book, or not noticing it necessarily, but I felt like the dialogue between the characters in this book was very unnatural and very stilted and quite formal, and just not the way that people would talk to each other. Obviously, when you're talking about hundreds of years ago, it's different, but the present day storyline, just the way that people spoke to each other, just didn't flow for me at all, and I actually found it quite jarring and off-putting. Also, not that much happens. It takes a long time for anything of note to happen, and I feel like we just sort of went round the houses a little bit, and there was very little need for the book to be as long as it was. But as I said, in general, I enjoy what Lucinda Riley is trying to achieve. I enjoy the blend of the present and the historical, and the overall story for me was interesting enough that I will continue on and pick up the next one and see where she decides to take the story. So I think I gave this 3 or 3.5 stars. Yeah, well, it didn't blow my socks off, but it was interesting enough that I wanted to keep reading. The next book that I read and finished was a really highly anticipated book for me. It comes with extremely high praise. It's a very much loved book on BookTube and in the book community in general, and I was worried going into it whether I would enjoy it or not, and so I've kind of had it on my TBRs and then taken it off and put it on for quite a while. But I decided that this season was the time when I was going to read it, and that is Homegoing by Yarg Jassy, and honestly I gave this 5 stars. I'm going to say right off the bat, I loved this book. I loved this book. It is amazing to me how Jassy managed to weave such a moving and complex and intense story in so few pages and with so many different characters as well. It's just astounding to me. She is a masterful storyteller, and I just adored everything about this book. So the basic premise is that we begin with 2 half-sisters in Ghana who incidentally never meet each other, and one becomes the wife of a British slave trader and one is taken into slavery and eventually ends up in America, and each chapter is told from the perspective of a new character, and we basically begin with these 2 sisters, Essie and Effia, and then we follow 6 subsequent generations of their 2 strands of the family, and it's just so wonderfully done. As I said, I really don't know how Jassy managed to tell such a complex story in such a compact way. It was just absolutely fantastic. She touches on some really dark and horrific moments in history, from slavery and colonialism to racism in general, but she manages to do it in this quiet way that is so sensitive but so impactful, and honestly I don't have the words to adequately describe how much I loved this book. It was hard-hitting and moving and gritty, but just done in such a quiet way. Yeah, I just absolutely adored this book, and I would highly recommend it if you haven't yet picked it up. And the last physical book that I finished this month was City of Fallen Angels by Cassandra Clare. This is the 4th book in Cassandra Clare's Mortal Instruments series, so I can't go into too much detail about what this book is about without giving away any spoilers, but overall I enjoy these books for what they are. They are easy to read, YA paranormal fiction. I pick these up when I just want something I can quickly get lost in. They're not complex, but I always enjoy them nonetheless. So the basic premise of the Mortal Instruments series is that they are set in a world where other beings exist among humans. So we have the likes of vampires and fairies and werewolves, and these downworlders, as they're known, are kept in check by the shadow hunters, who are like ass-kicking, demon-fighting warrior type people. And the first book, we follow our protagonist Clary as she discovers basically that she is a shadow hunter, and the shadow hunting world is facing a threat from a rogue shadow hunter called Valentine, and we sort of follow the story as it develops. Now this book kind of picks events up following a really huge finale in the 3rd book, so I feel like it was always going to struggle to have the same momentum, to have the same impact. It also focuses on one of the other characters, Simon, a little bit more, which I did enjoy, but I found him to be quite angsty, and I feel like we went round and round the houses a little bit with his story, which got a little bit repetitive in the end. But yeah, as I said, I enjoy these for what they are. I have heard good things about Cassandra Clare's later works, so I'm trying to get through this series in order to get on to those, because I like to read things in order. I have the next book on my summer TBR, so I will be continuing on shortly with the next book. But yeah, on the whole, if you like easy, quick YA books, particularly if you like anything with a hint of fantasy or paranormal activity, then I think that you will enjoy these. What can I say? They are what they are, and I quite enjoy reading them. Then the final book that I want to talk about is one that I'm listening to on audio. I haven't quite finished it yet. It's the Bookish Mama's choice, or was the Bookish Mama's choice for May, although we've extended it into June because we all seem to just be taking our time, and that is Becoming by Michelle Obama. This is Michelle Obama's autobiography. It follows her from her early life right the way through to where she is now, I guess, and I am really enjoying it. I'm not too far in. I've only listened to 5 or 6 hours and it's like 20 hours long, but I am really enjoying it. She has a fantastic way with words, a fantastic way of expressing herself, and already, even having only listened to such a short section of it, I found myself laughing and nodding along and even being moved to tears in one particular section. So yeah, I'm hoping to get that finished sort of midway through June, but I am really enjoying it. I didn't know what to expect. I'm not a big autobiography reader, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I guess even though I haven't finished it, I sort of know where it's going to end up, so I'm pretty sure that I will highly recommend it when I finish, but I'm sure that I will talk about it more in my June wrap up anyway. So that is it, just a short one from me this month. They are the books that I read in the month of May. Do let me know what your favourite read was in May. I always love to know. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Give me the thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment, and I will see you all soon.